Our church has been in a mutual project with a company called Ideal Impact, and we share a goal of trying to reduce the energy cost, in particular the electricity costs that our church has to spend or each month. With the stated intent is to take the money we would have spent on electricity and to actually put it back into the ministries of the church. There's some awareness points that are really important that everyone needs to be aware of for us to be successful in this effort and to free up these monies that are spent for electricity for ministry. And the title of this short video, which is an awareness video for a really important point to be aware of as we enter the summer months, the name of the video is, "With 5 minutes of effort, you can double the church's electric bill for an entire year." And this is not a good thing to do, and it's obviously an attention getter to get your attention, but it's not an exaggeration, as you'll see. So let's take a look at how you could accidentally do that. First off, there's 2 steps to the mistake we could make to do this, and obviously it's a little bit over the top to talk about somebody deliberately doing this. So let's just take a look at the awareness. Spend a few minutes with me here and you'll see how to avoid doing this. The first step on how to double the electric bill for an entire year is fail to notify the church office when you have a meeting scheduled. That's important because when you get to the room, it's assured if it's a hot day or a cold day, but in particular for electricity costs and air conditioning, it'll be a hot day. Your room's going to be hot, very likely going to be hot, and it'll be uncomfortable. When things are scheduled on the Google Calendar at the church, what that means is that the air conditioning units will come on really early and as early as necessary and run at a kind of a flat electrical load in order to cool the room properly and get the humidity out of the room so that the temperature range that's comfortable is a lot wider. This is really important to notify the office of a scheduled meeting, and if you want to make a big mistake, one of them begins with step 1, which is to fail to notify the office of a meeting and go into an uncomfortable room that needs to be air conditioned. Step 2 is when you arrive and the room's uncomfortable, if you were to just walk around the room and find as many thermostats as you can and start turning them on to get the air full blast to cool the room off quickly. It seems like a simple thing to do, but the fact is that having 4 units running simultaneously is very significant in terms of the size of the bill for this month and the coming year, even if it's just this one time that this has happened. So it really is that easy in 2 steps. Have a hot room and then go or allow someone to go turn up several thermostats at once to make the room, try to cool off the room as quickly as possible. So I know that sounds like a pretty simple thing, and it probably makes this whole video sound like an exaggeration, but it's not, and I'll show you why it's not. So first thing to do is just let's understand how electric bills are calculated in your home. They're fairly simple compared to a church, which is considered a commercial business. But at home, what happens is that the blue here represents your amount of usage for a day, and you're going to have to pay for that usage as the month progresses. And as days of the month go by, each day you'll use a little bit more, but it accumulates. As you do your daily use, it accumulates, which is shown in the red, into a monthly bill. That is, you just have different usages each day. It just accumulates on your bill, and then by the time you get to the end of the month, the sum of all your days' usage ends up being your monthly bill. It's just an accumulation of the usage through the month. That's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. It applies to a commercial operation such as a church that's considered commercial for electrical purposes, but it's not the entire bill, and there's more to it. So it's not the way to look at things to minimize the waste on our electric bill. Let's take a look at that. So in addition to, as I've just described, the daily use that I've described each day in blue is happening, accumulates on the bill, there's something else that happens on a commercial bill, and our church, again, is considered a commercial enterprise. This little chart right here looks like kind of busy, but basically what it's representing is as you go down this list here, you're showing one day, and this is the day broken up into 15-minute increments, 15-minute slices. This is exactly how what's called a smart meter on the church electric meter works, is it breaks the day into 15-minute slices and reports them to the utility company. As you look across here, each column would represent one full day. So by the time you get through a full month, you'd have 30 days, 31 days of columns. And what I've shown you here is a little chart that shows the color kind of represents the amount of usage during that 15-minute period of time. This is actually how the bill is calculated, so this is not theoretical. So the green represents, some amount, 5, electricity, we'll say 5, from midnight time, and then maybe some things are cycling off and on. It gets up a little above that. As the morning starts kicking off, while it's still cool, perhaps in the summer, it'll get up to a little bit more, getting kind of yellow. Then it begins to get kind of orange as we approach the afternoon, in the summertime in particular. And on the run up to church services, you can see that you might have, this is the way the chart would look. We actually get charts like this to evaluate. And if, for example, someone came in and started 4 air conditioning units at the same time, that would show up as something like this, as a substantially increased 15-minute slice of time on the record that the smart meter would report to the utility company. This 15-minute peak of time right here actually is multiplied times, is used to calculate the electricity, what's called a peak usage, and your bill for that month, the church's bill for that month, is calculated as though every 15-minute slice during the month we used the peak usage. So if a person goes in and they run 4 units simultaneously trying to cool it off because the room wasn't ready, our bill will reflect that all 4 of those units were running the entire month during that peak 15-minute period of time. And it takes 5 minutes or less to get them all 4 running. And we feel the impact that month and then beyond that month. This is an important strategy that's part of by flattening out these peaks that you see on that left side there and trying to not have any of those red areas. That's the reason you'll see sometimes you'll notice air conditioning units running at crazy times, and what they're doing is taking the humidity out of the room, so there's a wider range of comfort that you can have in the room. This is a proven method to get your utility cost dramatically reduced, and by keeping the humidity down and then cycling units one at a time, so one unit runs and maybe another unit runs instead, and running as few units at the same time as possible, it is actually worth it to flatten out the usage and run the units a lot longer than it is to just run them in a peak period and create a spike like this, which is going to dramatically drive up the overall month bill with the peak charge. So what happens is when your bill happens, this peak charge now, in addition to the daily usage, you have this peak charge which goes on top of that. And every day, even though it was only one 15-minute slice of time, every day is calculated as though that 15 minutes was all day long, every single day of the month. And that 15-minute charge ends up with you end up with an electric bill that could have been one amount that actually ends up being a substantially higher amount just because of that one peak 15 minutes of usage. That's not the whole story. In fact, it gets worse. In addition to the monthly charge being based on that one 15-minute slice of time, that same 15-minute peak is used to calculate the minimum bill for the next 11 months, 12 months total. So that 15-minute peak that those air conditioners were running that was used to figure the bill for the current month is calculated to 80%, or is multiplied times 80%, and it sets the minimum peak charge for the next 12 months. And the only way to do this, to get out from under this 80% peak charge based on that 15-minute slice, is to either exceed that slice again and get a new peak charge that's going to go for 12 months, or to let the 12 months elapse. So you can see it's quite literally true that over that 15-minute slice of time, if it's a high enough peak, it's going to be a gift that keeps giving, and we're going to have to pay that electric bill and that electric rate for an entire, or certainly 80% of that rate, for an entire 12 months. So what this means is that with a little bit of awareness and just avoiding some of these things that are troublesome, you can really help control the electric bill. And I would just submit to you that be sure, just a quick review is be sure to schedule meetings with the church for all the reasons that we've talked about, and just be aware. You'll see units running in the middle of the night, all kinds of crazy times, just to keep a room and humidity where it needs to be, and to flatten out that spike, so we're not hit with these peak charges that are so expensive, and they continue being expensive. Don't start several heating units, or our sanctuary, by the way, is heated with electricity as well. So just don't start those units simultaneously or walk around and get several units running at the same time. They're set up to automatically start appropriately and cycle on and off in such a way that it's comfortable, and to avoid the peak usage. I do need to stress that comfort is the number one priority of this program. And so, those of you that lived through the 1980s and all the energy shortages and that sort of thing, when people were sweating in the summer, that is not the intent of this program, and that type of sacrifice is not required. It's awareness that we need, and strategies that we're discussing in this video. If you see someone that has doors open and that's causing more and more air conditioning units to run, if the demand is such, in order to keep people comfortable, if the units sense and the thermostat sense that it's going to have to start 4 or 6 units, it will do that. But if people are, because they're unaware, they're allowing doors to remain open on a hot day and running a lot of air conditioning units. There's more going on there than just it can get so far behind that the system has to automatically start several units to try to catch up, and it can create a peak usage just simply because of wasteful doors standing open. It also applies to rooms that are not in use. Be sure to close the doors if there's a room that's not in use, or if you're in a meeting room and you're cooling a meeting room, for example, and there's a hallway that's not cooled, just close the door and your room will be fine. Another thing that you could be asked to do, by the way, is if a room is already being cooled from a meeting that's ending an hour before yours, when you try to schedule a meeting, you may be asked, would you mind using this other meeting room if it's the right size, because it's already cool, and that saves the inefficiency and the peak usage of trying to start up, cool off a different room that you may think you want to use, when it really doesn't matter to you. You're fine using the room that's already cool. That's a much more efficient way to get this done. So thank you for your attention. Thank you for your awareness. Just stay focused on this and be aware of good. We want to be good stewards of our energy, and this is a little tip here, a few little tips to help do that, so we can return the money we would spend on electricity to those ministries. Thank you.